Hi, it's BK here from BK Gold Detecting. Welcome to part 4 of finding your first gold nugget. Well, today I'm in a very different location to where I was in part 3. In part 3, we went patch finding in an area with no old workings, and therefore there was very little junk, and we did manage to get onto a good patch of gold. But today, I've returned to an area where I came last year. I just had a quick overnight stop here, and I managed to pick up an 8-gram beautiful nugget up on the hill above where I am now. So I've decided to come back here and see if I can find some more. Now the problem here is there's a lot of junk. There's a lot of old workings, and as a result, a lot of activity usually means a lot of junk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look around, look at the signs that the old timers have left me, and try to work out a small area with the highest possible chance of finding some gold, and just work a very small area thoroughly rather than just wander around picking up random pieces of junk all day in areas which may not even hold any gold. Well, I did some research on this area, and there's one very interesting thing that stood out. A lot of the gullies around here are quite shallow, and the old timers would find some good gold down the bottom of the gully, and the usual procedure was they would dig a series of prospecting holes and work out where the center of the gully was, where the gold would accumulate, and then they would clean it out. Well, in this area, the prospecting holes are very, very spread out, and there's no major workings associated with them. So my guess is the old timers have come here, they found some gold down the bottom of the gully, they've made a series of prospecting holes, and in the end they've just walked away from it. It's just not economic. They just can't find that rich seam of gold. But I know they would not have put in the effort that they've done here without there at least being evidence of gold, and gold always comes downhill. So the thing is here is to have a good look at where all these prospecting holes are, and then to move uphill from the center of where all those prospecting holes are, and find a small area that I can go over thoroughly. So I can show you visually, I might actually just spend 10 minutes and I'll walk around and I'll GPS position these holes, and I'll show you on the screen where I'm going to detect and why. Okay, here's the result of marking the prospecting holes. Now, this area down here, this is the very bottom of the gully here. These holes are quite large. The ground is quite deep there. But as these prospecting holes go further up the hill here, they're getting smaller and smaller and smaller. These last few here are actually very small. And there's one right up the top there, which is, the smallest of the lot. So it just so happens that last year I found an 8-gram nugget right where that red dot is. And that was pure luck. I was just basically walking through the area, but it seems to me to have worked out that that's probably where I would detect anyway. So my idea is going to be to detect this area here. The ground is a bit shallower, it's further up the hill, there's a little bit less junk. Down here there's a lot of old tin cans where the old timers were camping. It's just rubbish everywhere, it's almost impossible to detect. As you get up here, it's more shotgun pellets where they were going out shooting a few birds or rabbits or whatever. Now, it is going to be a bit of a frustrating day. There will be quite a few pellets, probably 20 pellets for every gold nugget, but we'll give it a go. Well, before we start, just a quick flashback to last year when I completely fluked upon that 8-gram nugget up the top of the hill here. Well, we've had our lunch and we've headed back up the hill, and Elijah and I thought we'd go detecting together, and you know, we found that tiny little piece this morning, and we wandered up here and got a little signal down here, and I said to Elijah, here you go, here's another shotgun pellet. Take a look at that. Wow! Well, as you can see, we got very excited about that one. Let's go out there and see if we can add to that. Okay, here we go. I'm up towards the top of where the prospecting holes were. So I need to very, very carefully work this area. Any signal at all needs to be investigated. you will get a lot of junk here. If you get a signal like that, scrape the surface. See if you can still hear it. See, it's gone. You'll spend all day if you try digging those. It's just a piece of junk lying on the surface, so just move on from that one. Finally, after so many pieces of lead shot, I'm finally getting a signal that's down deep enough that I think could be gold. You can see here, look, scrape marks every few meters. That's just how much lead shot is around here. A couple up there, one there, but this one is more promising. The difference here is I'm down to hard ground. And I'm getting quite a good signal here, so I'm quite hopeful on this one. Ooh, that sounds good. This is too deep to be lead. Sounding promising. Ah, beautiful. Beautiful. I've worked so hard for this piece of gold. So hard. There is so much junk around here. But it just shows you, if you persist, you will eventually find gold. Beautiful little piece. This ground around here is very, very hot. You get some signals that you would swear would be gold. But a quick scrape with your boot. Well, that surprised me. I thought that was a hot rock. I'll just give it another scrape. If it's still there now, then I would be digging. Well, that's interesting. I was just about to give you an example of what hot rocks sound like, and that's a good example of how you've got to be careful. Don't ever assume that it's a hot rock. This is probably going to be a lead shot, but I'm digging this. Well, you wouldn't believe it. I've moved so many hot rocks, and the one time I tried to film an example for you, it ends up being a target underneath the rock. That's why it's always important. Always scrape the ground and then check. If the signal moves, walk away. But if it doesn't move, dig. Probably another shotgun pellet, but still dig. Still there. Ah, she's gone. Oh, I'm having trouble finding this. If I get out my pinpointer. Oh, finally. Well, there you go. You wouldn't believe it. I was just going to give you a demonstration on hot rocks and how to just scrape the rocks out of the way and check for a signal underneath. And there was a signal underneath. And this time it was gold. 9 times out of 10, or probably 19 times out of 20 is going to be a lead shot around here, but definitely worth checking every signal. Beautiful. Well, it's only the second piece and I've been working very, very hard, so it's going to be a lean day here, but you know, definitely worth a go. You can see the car down there, not too far up the hill, and just above the last of the prospecting holes, which is just over there somewhere, only a small one. Eliza's called me over. She's getting a bit of a target here, and there is a lot of junk around here, but this seems quite deep, so she's got the pinpointer here, and there's something coming from the middle of the hole there. Yeah, still something there. Yeah, it's always important to dig around the outside if you think you're getting a really good target. Nothing worse than putting the pick into a good nugget. Down quite deep, and there's a rock here that's screaming, but could just be a big chunk of very, very heavy ironstone, but we'll get it out. Well, got this lump out, but I think this is going to be a bit of a disappointment. I think we might actually have part of an old miner's pick that's somehow buried its way down there. This ground's obviously been disturbed. We'll just break it open, because you never ever know, but we can actually see some metal in the sides there. Well, there you go. When you're looking for big nuggets, you will get disappointments. It looks like the end of an old miner's pick. Don't know how it got right down there in the really hard ground, but I think Eliza's a little bit disappointed, but you know, one day that will be the big one. I mean, this is what detecting is all about. You know, you've got to be prepared to go through the disappointments. That was disappointing because of the fact it was so deep, but also I'm actually quite proud of Eliza, the fact that she picked that up so deep, and yeah, I'm glad she called me over. Could have been a real big one. One thing that can really sound like a gold nugget. Makes that beautifully warbling sound. 22 bullet. So many times I've thought I've had gold and I've picked up one of those. Shotgun pellets tend to be a sharper sound. Once again, you would swear that was gold, and I've got this detector on such a low setting. Just another piece of hot ironstone. In these areas where there is a lot of junk and a lot of hot rocks, it's usually the quiet sounds that more get my attention. You know, something that's likely to be a little bit deeper is a good example here. I mean, I've had so many screaming targets around here, but then this one. Often it's these subtle, quiet targets which are the gold deeper down. A shotgun pellet near the surface is going to make quite a loud noise. Still in there. Another beautiful little piece of gold there. Well, this is interesting. I got a signal here. The ground is very, very hard, but as soon as I started to dig, I realised I was digging up someone else's old detector hole that they'd filled in. And inside was the tiniest little piece of gold. Someone obviously had trouble finding it and just gave up. Okay, look, I've called Eliza over because I'm not quite sure what's going on here. There could be something here. There was a previous scrape on the surface just here, which somebody had walked away from. So I dug down and I found a burnt tree stump. Now, they often give out a signal, but if I come from the side and go right, it's really possible here that there's a good nugget underneath this tree stump. I mean, carbon or burnt wood can give off the signal, but the interesting thing is this side of the tree stump, there's no signal. There's no signal there at all. I'm only getting it on this side. If it's not gold, I've got a good stump for the fire tonight. Well, I think I'm in for a major disappointment here. I've fallen for the oldest trick in the book, I think. This tree stump here, I think there's two things. Either there's a gold nugget directly underneath in the roots, but I got my suspicions that somebody's dropped something down a hollow in this tree, because when I put my pinpointer under here, I'm getting a signal. Well, just as I thought, major disappointment. Someone went to a great lot of trouble to put this little piece of metal down this hole so it would fall down the bottom of this tree stump. Now this stump was actually under the ground, this burnt off stump. So somebody's actually dug down a target, seen the tree root and decided to have a bit of a joke. Well, you got me. Well, I hope you enjoyed finding your first gold nugget, part 4. Not a lot of gold in this one, but that's not really the point. We show it as it is, and some places are more difficult than others to find gold. We did manage to pick up a few. We also had a couple of major disappointments, but you're going to get those along the way as well. Hopefully we passed on a little bit of knowledge about how to work an area which has got a lot of rubbish and a lot of ground noise. And look, we hope to see you next time. So till then, stay safe and we'll see you soon.